You're wearing my hat. What else you got that's mine?
Mister, I don't know what you're talking about.
I hope your fingers aren't tickling my ivory-handled cold. You stand up real slow and let me see. You might live through this night.
Sure.
This is Dueling Pistols, where history draws first and legends never die. No fluff, no filters, just raw stories of grit, blood, and legacy. Triggered by Black Flag. Fire hunters carried a blazing torch into the woods at night, and startled deer would stand frozen staring at the flame.
What do they call them? Fire?
They call it fire hunting. Yeah,
I think
fire
we call
hunters.
that spotlighting. No, officer, I was
Staring
fire hunting.
At the flame. Welcome to the show. I am your host, Brian Call, and I am joined by my brother, Brent Call. How are you, Brent?
I'm well, thank you.
Good. We're back to the book, Boone, a biography by Robert Morgan. I don't know what episode we're on, maybe 7 or 8 or so. Right now we're in the 1760s.
Yeah, middle of the 1700s-ish.
Right about. I think Boone is going to be about 20. He's about 26 years old right now. He's somewhere between 16 and 26. I'm not sure exactly what date we're exactly on. 26. Yep, 26. This is the age where Boone is actually taking off into the woods for extended periods. We're about to get into what it was like during these years of him trapping while trying to not get killed by Indians. And the draw that he has to be out there. I'm telling you, there's a lot of people that are listening to this podcast, and they're going, yeah, hell no. Hell no. Hell to the no.
Yeah.
Just living outside for those extended periods of time, using your woodcraft and your survival skills while being hunted at the same time, but still having that draw to pursue game, hunt game, trap game. It takes a certain type of person, like a serious type of person to do
We
this.
all know someone that if we pick them up and put them out, like just in a park somewhere, they're not getting out.
Yeah, for sure. So what we've got right now, we're into the book. Real quick, America was discovered in 1492 by Christopher Columbus, or I should say that's when Columbus discovered it. Other people discovered it as well, but that's when Christopher Columbus discovered it. About 200 years later, in 1717, is when Squire Boone, Daniel Boone's father, came to the United States, immigrated here. He's a Quaker. The Friends? Anyway.
Yeah.
Daniel Boone was born in 1734. So by 1760, he is 26 years old. This is towards the end of the 8 Years' War or 7 Years' War with the French and the Indians, Last of the Mohicans time frame. Just think of that kind of for your cultural reference. And here we are. He's out trapping and doing his thing and trying not to get killed by Indians. So back to the book. Let's get right into it. This is gets kind of fun here. These are the parts of the book I really like. Around 1760, Boone began to go on longer and longer hunts into the Blue Ridge Mountains to the north and west of the Yadkin to the valleys beyond the Blue Ridge. It was Cherokee country, and hunters had to be discreet, never calling attention to themselves, building a small campfire in hidden coves behind rocks and logs, leaving little evidence they had been there. The ideal was to slip into the valleys as silent and unseen as an Indian, extract the hides and bear meat, beaver and mink and otter pelts, and withdraw again. The best hunting was always on Indian land, and Boone became an expert at infiltrating, spying, and harvesting the bounty there. So we read this on the last episode, but just to paint the picture for what's going on here. It goes on to say, according to one account, the Cherokees found Boone's tracks one day in the region that would later be Washington County, Tennessee. And they remember he hides behind that waterfall, and they were like, "Oh, he's a ghost," and he disappeared, and they ran off. Right?
Yeah. Because that's the only explanation, Brian. Guy went in the water, he never came out.
Right.
Ghost.
Beyond the Blue Ridge were the Alleghenies. It says that in the Smokies, Nathan Boone said, "I have often heard Father speak of hunting in the Smoky, Brushy, and Little Mountains, and also Pilot Mountain. While hunting in and passing over these mountains, he would never consider he had discovered the real West, which was Kentucky."
Okay, so I got to show you this picture, Brian. I'm going to throw this up. So this is a topographical map of the U.S. showing you the elevation marks.
Yeah.
That's insane, dude. You basically have the Appalachian Mountains all along the East Coast,
Mm-hmm.
and then it's flat as all get out. You could hop on a bar stool and see to the other side of the country, and then you hit the Rocky Mountains, and it's like, it just looks like that is insane.
That's wild. Yeah,
right?
That's wild. Yeah, I mean, we grew up on that
Think about
side.
that, bro. They pretty much only have that little bit on the East Coast right there where they can really settle before they hit the mountains.
Yeah, if you're listening to this podcast, you probably want to go and check out the visuals on the YouTube version, because holy moly, that really does paint a picture, doesn't it?
That's insane. People live in those places. We were up in here.
Yeah. What's crazy too is this is why those little Appalachian Mountains, we call them little, but it doesn't matter if it's funny about mountain ranges, because if a mountain range is 100 feet vertical wall, it doesn't matter that it's short. 100 feet is still too high to take a pack horse train through.
It's very true.
And so there in essence is a sheer wall there between where settlers lived and those mountains. And Daniel Boone is largely responsible for finding the gap between those mountain ranges.
Looks like you can kind of see it right there almost.
In order to peek through and then get into the other side, which is basically untouched. The mountains stopped the settlers from moving west until Boone.
See, this picture also makes Buffalo make more sense to me.
Yeah.
Because, when I think about Buffalo living, like you say, they're all over the U.S. and stuff, and the numbers that they have, and then I look at this map, I'm like, how are they living up in those mountains? Do they live up there?
Yeah. The buffalo kind of stretched everywhere.
That's just crazy.
You have buffalo now in, not at the tippy top of rough mountains, but yeah, the buffalo kind of, even where elk go, we're buffalo. And even now in places like in Canada, there's some herds that live in some nasty sort of tight mountainous terrain, and they're adaptive. They're still living in the Appalachians too. I mean, they're, typically an elk is a plains animal as well. But the elk are perfectly adaptable to the mountains as well, as we all know. As civilization has encroached on all the open country and the flatlands, the animals have been forced to move into the mountains. Why do we have so much public land out west? Because so much of it is mountainous and uninhabitable.
No one's going to want to try to build a city on that.
You can't get a road in there. You can't. Some of these wilderness areas are just, you can't do anything else with them except leave them wilderness,
Let alone, there's some parts in the mid-U.S. right here, you could just drop a whole city.
Yeah.
It's flat enough to...
Yeah, when people from out east say, "Hey, Brian, how do I get in shape for climbing mountains and hiking?" and they're somewhere in that flat spot, I'm like, find a staircase in a stadium.
Stair steppers, 100-pound backpack, do some box jumps, hope for the best.
Find a building.
Yeah.
Hit their staircase. Yeah. So anyway, back to the book. It says... Boone became a commercial hunter. The idea was to return from these long hunts with a pack horse carrying more than 100 hides. So we talked about that. We talked about Annette, the feminist Annette Kaladny. Here it says, one of Boone's companions on these long hunts was his neighbor Nathaniel Gist. Or Gist. I think it's Gist.
G-I-S-T?
Son of Christopher Gist, scout for the First Ohio Company, and for George Washington's expeditions into the backcountry. So Nathaniel Gist is the guy that goes out and hunts with Boone a lot, and he's the guide and scout for George Washington when he went back there to sort of mess around with the French. Okay. It says Nathaniel Gist would later marry a Cherokee woman and become, according to some, the father of the great Cherokee inventor Sequoyah, who developed the Cherokee alphabet. But in December of 1760, Gist was hunting in the Brushy Mountains just west of the Yadkin with Boone. It was at this time that they met a slave named Burrell, who served as a cowherd near the head of the Watauga River for one of the settlers. Burrell lived to be over 100 years old.
Wow. How are these people doing that, bro? Living that long in those conditions?
Because you gotta. This is my take, right?
No processed foods.
Well, they're living a more natural life, and so long as you didn't get murdered by somebody, in some accident, things like diseases, you just died from them, and so you didn't pass that down to the next generation.
So they're just tougher.
If you had bad eyesight, selectively, nature was selecting for the hardest human beings.
We need to carpet bomb some places with peanuts, is what you're saying.
I mean, what happens is I think you just have people of a constitution where we didn't have modern medicine. So a lot of people just died. But the people who didn't, and they were the tough ones. It also goes to show that our bodies are much more longevity and strength and than we realize.
And these guys are they're probably not drinking a whole lot. They're fairly religious folk.
I don't know.
Or they're just
I don't know about that.
There's not a lot else to do. Before you move on, dude, that guy, Sequoia, he spent 12 years coming up with that, what they call it, a syllabary.
Yep.
Which is what you have to make in order to be able to make letters. I've never heard of this.
Yeah. It says that this Burrell character who lived to be 100 years old, he was a slave. It says that Burrell lived to be over 100 years old, and around 1845, so I think Boone died around 1820 or 1815 or something like that.
That's about right.
It says that around 1845, he told a boy named Thomas Isbell that he had guided Daniel Boone to the cabin built earlier for herders on his first trip across the Blue Ridge. Okay. So this slave fellow who lived to be 100 later was telling people that he
met Daniel Boone.
He led Daniel Boone to this cabin out there. Burrell had spent years in the mountains looking for cattle and other livestock, and at the same time exploring the mountains and valleys farther west. He told Boone and Gist of even richer hunting grounds farther on and showed them buffalo traces that led through low gaps to reach there. Buffalo traces are trails. He took them to a herder's cabin built by Benjamin Howard on a high sweeping meadow. Water on the east side flowed to the Yadkin, on the north to the New River, and the west to the Watauga and the Tennessee. Boone and Gist had found what was called the backwater, water moving toward the Mississippi, drawn in the direction they were drawn. Moving on, they basically explore all this region. It says Boone explored the regions more thoroughly and hunted there more profitably than anyone else had before. He was known for his precise memory. Once he saw a piece of ground, he seemed to never forget it. It was said of him that he never crossed a route that he had once traversed without once recognizing the place and knowing that he was crossing one of his former trails. People like that blow my mind, and I've been around a fair bit.
I'd never be able to do that. It's not even close.
It's a crazy talent. Now, I have honed that ability over the years through practice and hard work and taking notes in my mind and all of that kind of stuff. Playing around with maps, looking at the landscape, looking at a map, looking at the landscape, looking at the map, familiarizing myself with each peak, river, valley, and all that. Oh, this river comes here, and imprinting on my mind kind of where I'm at. And so I've gotten really quite adept at it, very confident of map reading and navigating in the backcountry alone for weeks at a time. But it was something I earned. There are people I know that just seem to, like Daniel Boone, it just sticks in their head. It's uncanny. In late 1761, Boone and Gist were camping in far southwestern Virginia at a site where Black's Fort would later be built. During the night, they were attacked by a pack of ravenous wolves and, with great difficulty, beat off the animals with rifles and axes. They named the place Wolf Hills, but later settlers changed the name to Abingdon. I don't know.
That sounded like they downgraded the name. So they're getting just jacked by wolves?
That's what it says. They named the place Wolf Hills. So kind of interesting. Some people who are not familiar with the outdoors much, they have this fear of a pack of wolves getting them. You know, for hunters, that's like, it's almost unheard of. We don't have that fear. Wolves are more afraid of us than we are of them. It's very difficult to come across a situation where we can actually pinpoint where wolves killed somebody. I mean, it's just so unheard of. There's like one in British Columbia that happened 15 years ago or something. A little girl, a younger girl, in a tourist area. But there's all these questions like, you know, how did it come to be? Did she really get followed and then attacked by wolves, or did they mistake her for something? It's hard to say. But you do hear back then, you know, I think wolves are more desperate sometimes or more bold. There is a dense, they're everywhere. You know, the density of wolves was so much higher than it is today in many areas. So, you know, I don't doubt that this could happen. It's just very.
Well, you got to think that. I think most wolves, I mean, like, they're conditioned to some extent.
Yeah.
You know, and I just don't think those wolves had seen a lot of people. They had seen some natives before then. Do you think people showing up with firearms would eventually affect that? Do you think they were running away from people there in the beginning?
Yeah, it's hard to say. You know, it's hard to say. Firearms definitely changed the world we live in, for sure. You know, if you only have spears and arrows, maybe they were more bold.
That's
right?
what I would feel, man. Like, when
wolves
you have
got
like
closer to people back then.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. It's a very outlandish story from my perspective, being attacked by wolves. But, you know,
it happened during World War I. The Germans and the Russians had to take a ceasefire and cap a bunch of wolves because they were jacking them in the middle. But again, middle of winter, nothing to eat.
Also, Siberia and North America are a little different.
Different critters, I suppose.
I mean, I think
a Siberian wolf,
they're
American
a little more
wolf.
desperate. I don't know. It's just food for thought, I guess.
Okay.
Boone's prowess as a hunter and scout became part of the folklore of the region. A century later, stories still circulated on the Yadkin about his exploits. A good hunter might be referred to as a Boone. Dang, this guy's a Boone.
That's cool. What a boon.
This was a time when to be called an excellent hunter was about the highest honor a man could aspire to.
We got to bring that back, bro. We got to bring that back. What a boon. I've heard people say booner. But
yeah, for Boone and Crockett.
Yeah. It's a booner.
I mean, it's funny because that term is used to describe, you know, a world-class, mature, giant antlered animal, a booner. Still Boone's name, you know, the Boone and Crockett Club. Boone, Daniel Boone, Davy Crockett, kind of what it's named after. It says there was a political dimension to hunting also. Hunting could level the social playing field in a society where the great landowners and leaders were rarely hunters. The reverse of the case in the old world. While expressing contempt for the rough backwoods hunters, the gentry resented their democratic independence. So, you know, these hunters didn't really need royalty or kings or society as much because they just were self-sufficient, living off the land.
They live in a land of milk and honey.
Much like the native folks. It is likely that by this period, Boone had also become a digger of ginseng to support his income. Called sang in the southern Appalachians, ginseng was reputed to be a general tonic and aphrodisiac. The root could be sold to the Chinese for a substantial profit. In Boone's time, the woods were filled with ginseng, if one knew where to look and what to look for. The herb preferred shady forest slopes and valleys. It had to be found while the leaves were recognizable or the berries bright red. In winter, the bare stalks were hard to identify. Once dug, the roots were dried and kept dry to prevent mildew and rot. It's because the root of ginseng can grow roughly in the shape of a man's body that, according to the doctrine of signatures, it is a stimulant for the whole body and for sexual potency, nature's own Viagra. When hunting, Boone hid the ginseng, he had dug in caches throughout the mountains. Later, he'd come back and collect the roots. It was said he would later return straight to them, all with unerring accuracy. So, as he was kind of out and doing his thing, and he found ginseng or whatever, he would gather it up and then stash it, and gather it up and stash it. So he had stashes all over like a chipmunk. In those years on the Yadkin, Boone also acquired a reputation as a storyteller and wit. A century later in the region were still quoting his ancestors in jokes. He is supposed to have said, "I wouldn't give a tinker's damn for a man who isn't sometimes afraid. Fears the spice that makes it interesting to go ahead." How do you like that one, Brent?
You know, a similar quote, Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. When they're like, "Why would you jump in that? People die." And the twins are like, "It's not fun if it's not a little dangerous."
Yeah, absolutely. So it goes on to say, and he is credited with observing, "Wisdom comes by facing the wind. Fools let it carry them." And another occasion he said, "Hurry, why don't you know a man will overrun a heap more than he will overtake?" Hurry, why don't you know a man will overrun a heap more than he will overtake?
A heat?
Heap.
Heap?
Oh, it's hurry, question mark.
Oh.
Hurry? Why? Don't you know a man will overrun a heap more than he will overtake? Overrun a treasure? Or overrun a heap of game? I kind of think I get it. Like, he's basically saying, why are you in such a hurry to get everywhere? Mm-hmm. Don't you know you'll be passing a ton of good stuff, more good stuff than you'll actually get to in the end?
Okay, I get that.
Yeah, that's kind of how we hunt, too.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we're very conservative in that regard. It drives me nuts to go somewhere, and where we're camping, people in camp are talking loud with normal voices. It's like, we're in the hunt now. Mm-hmm. Like, we have a destination 5 miles in. You'll be with somebody who feels like until we get to that spot, the hunt doesn't...
Game's not on.
Just talk, hang out, be loud. When you could have something like right there, you know?
Those people don't come back.
There were many other sayings and stories attributed to him. When a man said to a smoker, "Don't you know even a hog don't use tobacco?" The smoker answered, "Well, who does that make more like a hog, me or you?" Nathan Boone later said that his father, Daniel, never used tobacco in any form.
That is insane. Do you know what America was built on? It's basically tobacco and furs at this point. That's it. Like almost every bumper crop you have is tobacco.
It was said of a man with no socks and very cold weather that his feet would freeze. Boone answered, "Even taters wouldn't freeze with that much dirt on them." It is a pity that we know so little of the herder guide named Burrell. Throughout his long career, Boone was often accompanied by African Americans on his hunting expeditions. For a slave such as Burrell, the occupation of Highland herder must have been a godsend, allowing him to escape the field work and hardships of the plantation for the beauty and adventure of the upland forests. Only 1/10 of the families on the Carolina border at that time owned slaves, and most of the households that did owned only a few. But it is striking how often references to black people appear in accounts of the frontier. Usually they are not named, mentioned only in passing, but we know they were there. Some slaves ran away to join the Indians and became members of their tribes. Others were kidnapped by the Indians and used as interpreters and guides and marksmen. Though Boone did go on long hunts with neighbors and friends and his brother Squire, and was known as a good companion around the campfire, expert at roasting turkey and eating it with relish, it was safer to slip through the woods on his own. He liked spending several weeks in the mountains, wandering and hunting with only his dog and horse. One early biography, the Reverend John Mason Peck, said Boone had developed the habit of contemplation while alone in the woods. Emerson later said, "If a man would be alone, let him look at the stars." The sage of Concord could well have been putting into words Boone's own experience of many nights in the wilderness with only the stars for his company. This is interesting. How did he do this? It says, when Boone camped in the woods, he usually built a little hut, open on one side to the campfire and the southern sun, called a half-face, and made of limbs on poles, pine boughs, bark, and even moss. They didn't have a lightweight teepee to pack around. You got there, and you just started making it out of what was there. Within the shelter, warmed by blankets or bearskins or buffalo skins, with his feet to the coals, he could survive the coldest nights, looking out at the stars that seemed to chatter just beyond the treetops. His favorite meal at this period was said to be elk's liver. According to his son Nathan, Boone learned to watch the direction bears moved in the fall, looking for plentiful masts of corns and hickory nuts, and he followed them. Boone knew that the secret of hunting, as in so many other pursuits, was not just in marksmanship, but in attention, preparation, watching, and listening before he ever made a move. Bear meat was especially sweet and tender because of all the nuts the bears eat in late summer and autumn. Bear meat is, I think, the favorite meat in our household. Canned as well, because it's like a pot roast that's been, it's easy. You take the lid off the jar,
and happy.
eat and then you just start going to town. Now, Hank Shaw, the chef, Hank Shaw, wild game chef, he has a little, when he talks about bear in one of his books on preparing bear and butchering bear, he says, they're an omnivore. And he said, omnivores in general, taste like what they eat. There's no animal on the planet Earth more than bear that can swing so greatly in how it tastes. He's like, bears that eat fish, like in Southeast Alaska, and that's all they eat. He said, you cook a bear like that, and it tastes like low tide, dirty ocean, dead fish, and carry on. But you eat a bear like these that are eating acorns, nuts, grass, sweet onions, and blueberries and huckleberries. It tastes just like those things. It is some of the most delicious meat you've ever had. And especially over here, where on the east side, these bears are a lot like the mountain bears that Ryan and I pursue, which are just, they're just delicious. I mean, some of the best game meat there is to be had. Rich in fat, lots of flavor. The fat renders down. It's a perfect material for cooking French fries. There's no French fry oil better than bear fat. It's an amazing animal, but it can taste disgusting as well, depending on what that bear has been consuming and eating.
I remember when you would cook that bear that you shot up in Alaska a couple years ago, your whole house would smell like fish.
Yep, it would. All right. On later hunts, Daniel was known to carry a Bible and other books, including Gulliver's Travels. Have you read that, Brent?
Gulliver's Travels? Yeah, I've seen the cartoon.
In middle life, he read considerably in history, which was his favorite reading. Nathan said, this is Nathan recalling, and he said late in his life, Boone wrote his widowed sister-in-law that it had always been his habit to read the scriptures. Nathan said he read the Bible more than any other book in his later years. It's possible Boone took the Bible with him on these early hunts to savor by the campfire. He already had a pronounced sense of the sacredness of life, of the forest, and the natives who lived in it. Probably influenced as much by Indian beliefs as by his Quaker upbringing, his worship was in secret, and he placed his hopes in the Savior, Nathan told Draper. It says, Daniel told the story of being awakened one winter night in his camp near Lake Jonesboro, Tennessee, to find himself surrounded by Cherokees. As one lifted the snow-covered blanket off of him. "Ah, Wide Mouth, have I got you now?" the brave exclaimed. The Cherokees had given him that name perhaps because he was prone to laughter and storytelling. And to them, that's how Boone was always known. The exclamation shows how elusive they had found Boone, though he was ranging in the heart of their hunting grounds.
Brian, what do you think, like, if you got caught by or became friends with Indians, what kind of nickname do you think they'd get you?
"Ah, Wide Mouth, have I got you now?" I don't know.
They'd call me Pointy Brow.
But I think it's interesting here the way that they have, they're like, gotcha, but they're also kind of surprised that they found this guy because they know he's there. He's just always getting away. It says, not showing surprise, Boone sat up and smiled and shook hands with his captors. Though deeply asleep minutes before, he chatted with the braves and probably passed his flask. He usually traveled with a jug or flask of whiskey or applejack. His aplomb and steadiness. What's this?
Aplomb?
Yeah, like kind of get it, but
that is a weird word.
Style. His nonchalant style, aplomb.
Self-confidence, assurance, especially in a demanding situation.
Yeah. His aplomb and steadiness, ease and gracefulness, as well as his marksmanship and skill, gave him an extraordinary rapport with the Indians. He was cocky in a good way.
He was good under stress.
Yeah. Of famous white Americans, only Sam Houston appears to have had a comparable knack for fitting in with native peoples. Sam Houston. Look him up. He's not nearly as famous as Boone. The Cherokees did not harm Boone, but took all of his furs, Brent. All of them.
Those rats.
They could have scalped him or tomahawked him or taken him back to their village for a night of torture and burning at the stake. Instead, they claimed his precious hoard of pelts and his fine Pennsylvania rifle. This would happen to him again and again in his career in the woods. He would hunt and trap for weeks, even months, only to have his harvest taken from him. Undaunted...
So this guy's a badass. So he was the 6th governor of Tennessee. Eventually, is kind of how Boone ended up finding him.
Sam Houston.
Yeah, Sam Houston ran away from home when he was a teenager and lived with the Cherokee for 3 years because he said, F you, Mom, and then ran out in the woods. And then he served under General Jackson in the War of 1812, and he helped preside over the removal of a lot of the Cherokee people. Mm-hmm. And so he presided over them being moved and unmolested during their move as much as he could. He's got a crazy story, too. We might have to dig into that at some point. He ran for president.
It says that they took his stuff, everything, and that would happen to him again and again in his career in the woods. He would hunt and trap for weeks, even months, only to have his harvest taken from him. Undaunted, Boone would return to the woods as soon as he'd replaced his supplies and traps and rifle and began all over again. There is little evidence that he ever expressed bitterness or sought revenge for these losses. He could always trade for a new rifle, forge some more traps. If he had to, he could even make a rifle. And it's likely he understood how the Cherokees felt. Facing a poacher and spy who could shoot and trap and track as well as they could on their own land, the Indians may have monitored his activities from a distance, waiting until he had accumulated a hoard of furs before they robbed him. When Indians stole Boone's furs and rifle, they often did it in the guise of a trade. It was bad. It was bad manners to steal outright. They offered to trade their musket for his fine rifle, a worn-out knife for his new one, a little wampum for all of his furs. Boone understood the protocol and charade, and he complied.
Well, it's that or nothing, man.
Theft might be considered wrong in tribal ethics, but a trade, that was respectable. That's so funny. You know.
I know.
And I know. You know that I know that you know that I know you're ripping me off, but we're going to play this game anyway. And I'm going to smile and shake your hand, and you're not going to kill me.
Yeah, because I like my hair.
Boone may not have cared as much about possessions and wealth as other hunters did. The ones who got angry fought back and were killed. Much as he loved trapping, it was still worth going into the wilderness, even if one did return to the settlements without a fortune in beaver skins and deer hides. Yeah, this is what I was going to say is, for Boone, it's really not about the money. It's about the process. It's about the hunt. It's about learning about nature. It's about gathering these things. And if he gets home with it, great. But he's kind of like the dude who's going to do it whether he's paid or not. Mm-hmm. That's the dude he is. He's going to go and hunt because of the love of the hunt. Mm-hmm. Not because of the money, because there's better ways to make money.
And it doesn't matter what kind of gear he's got. He's just going to go do it,
He's going to find a way. It says, and he could always catch more bear, more beavers, kill more deer. It would seem, in fact, that Boone sometimes hunted with the Cherokees. Wellborn Coffee told Lyman Draper on September 28th of 1884, this would be 65 years after Boone died, or 60 years or something, that Boone was once hunting with a band of Cherokees when they came across what appeared to be buffalo tracks. Buffalo had been gone from that part of the Blue Ridge for a long time as white settlements encroached on Cherokee lands. But Catawbas would sometimes make what appeared to be buffalo tracks to lure Cherokees into an ambush. No buffalo, one Cherokee said, Taubers, but Boone led them farther down the trail until they came to a huge pile of buffalo droppings. Taubers no make so, a Cherokee said, and Boone laughed, and likely the Cherokees laughed with him. I think what it is they said it was a fake track from the other tribes. And he's like, no, I don't know. And then Boone follows it, and then they found poop, and they're like, okay, well, it's not a fake track because they can't fake poop. You know? It says the first inscriptions on trees with Boone's name in the Watauga area appear to date from this period. Hunters of the time were fond of carving their names on beech and other trees, on boulders, cave walls. Indians also carved pictures and signs on trees and rocks to mark a path to record their passing. There's one that says on a tree that's from this time period that says, Daniel Boone, come on, boys, here's good water. No doubt the urge to write one's name or make one's sign, scribe the name of a lover, is enhanced by solitude and distance from others. Indians sometimes left the tomahawk to show where they had been. It appears Boone merely left his name. Interesting, huh? How he just went and trapped. The Indians would take his stuff. He'd go and trap. I mean, the book, we're not going to read every single one of those, but the book just goes on and on about that happening to him over and over for the next 50 years. Like, it just, that's what happens. This next part is very interesting. We'll get into it on the next episode, but it says, I'll give you a little precursor for what's next. When Daniel returned to Virginia for his family in 1762, so he left in 1760, he's back in 1762. Legend has it that he'd been gone for 24 months. That's 2 years. There in Culpeper County, he found his wife Rebecca nursing a new baby. Jemima, born on October 4.
Good old Jemima.
So we're going to get into Boone's response to this and Rebecca and their whole thing. But put yourself in Rebecca's shoes. You don't know if he's dead or alive, right?
It's not like he's writing home every day.
This is interesting. It's a really fascinating chapter because what I think it tells you is we're spoiled. We have cell phones. We kind of know what everybody's doing, what's going on. Back then, they didn't know. Someone would leave. You never knew. If they didn't come back, I don't know.
Yep.
Also, there was a thing where it's like, well, how long can I wait? Like, I have childbearing years. I need kids. This is how we kind of survive. How long can you wait in that window? There's a very practical side to living on the frontier. And what I find annoying is in the modern age when I hear young people judging people of the past, and I'm thinking, they just were trying to live.
Not thrive, just live.
Just get by, survive. And they were tough, and they gritted it out. And you look back on them and say, shame on them for X, Y, and Z. And it's like that you have to understand the historical context and the realities on the ground at that time. And then you need to judge people within that context. Otherwise you're wasting time. You're completely misguided. So we'll get into whose child it might be, or child it is. Daniel's response. What would be your response? We'll get into that next. So, folks, appreciate you for tuning in and listening to the show. Hope you like it. If you do, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. Follow us there. We appreciate your support. Thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you on the next one. Hello, friends. I hope you're enjoying our new Dueling Pistols podcast. Remember, it's only here temporarily on the Gritty channel.
Short time.
If you want to subscribe to the main show, head on over to our YouTube channel, Dueling Pistols, and subscribe over there. And anywhere that you get your podcast, you can subscribe there. Thanks for supporting us.
We're on all platforms.
Yeah, we're out there. Find it over there. And tell a friend.
Yeah.
Tell a friend about our new show.
Tell all your friends.
Help us grow it bigger.
We're just going to turn this to an ASMR.
All right. Thanks, guys. Catch you on the next episode.